according to law enforcement sources, that her body was not intact. And that it appeared that she may have been dead inside that car for an extended period of time.
The FBI just uncovered an autopsy that proved David's ex-girlfriend's death wasn't some tragic accident, and the truth is devastating.
David had been branded as the shy bedroom pop star, the kid who turned heartbreak into hits. But behind the stage lights and sad boy lyrics, the FBI exposed something far darker. The autopsy of Celeste Ribba Hernandez didn't just answer questions, it opened a vault everyone hoped would stay sealed. Imagine prying open a chest lost at the bottom of the ocean. You expect dust and decay, maybe a relic or two. Instead, you find a ticking bomb. What investigators discovered wasn't one clean cause of death tied up with a bow. It was a mosaic of injuries, chemical traces, and signs of prolonged suffering. Like puzzle pieces scattered across a crime scene, each darker than the last, and together, they told one chilling story. Celeste's life wasn't simply cut short, it was eroded over time, while the adults around her, industry gatekeepers, managers, so-called friends, looked away, pretending not to smell the smoke while the fire raged. According to the FBI's findings, toxicology revealed she'd been subdued, her bloodstream laced with substances she never should have touched. The coroner compared her state to a marionette with its strings cut, lifeless, yet unmistakably manipulated. Strings cut, not in a single violent crash, but weakened slowly, methodically, until she finally collapsed. That word marionette lingers because it echoes how fans now describe David's control over her. The old TikToks, Discord chats, Instagram stories, they weren't harmless digital scraps. They were breadcrumbs, leading straight to a truth no one wanted to face. This wasn't a fling. It wasn't a mistake. It was a pattern, and that's where the hypocrisy burns brightest. On one hand, David gave polished interviews about his art, musing about roses decaying into dirt, life cycles, invisible strings binding souls. On the other, a young woman's life cycle was brutally severed, her own string cut in silence. So when the autopsy leaks surfaced, the reaction was seismic. Imagine a tidal wave slamming into a sandcastle. The carefully crafted image of David, the shy prophet of heartbreak, collapsed instantly. Fans who once cried to his ballads began dissecting his lyrics for hidden confessions, the way conspiracy theorists scour blurry photographs. His track Romantic Homicide, released on Celeste's own birthday, suddenly read less like art and more like a warning, a coincidence, maybe, but coincidences pile up like dominoes until the whole line tips, and tip it did when old live stream clips resurfaced. In one chilling broadcast, David laughs nervously, mutters about media training, then abruptly demands the footage be erased. That was the crack in the dam, and once people saw it, the flood couldn't be stopped.
Mwah, 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 mwah. Oh my, delete everything, delete everything, everything goes.
Think about that. Back then, it was brushed off as paranoia, just another quirky overreaction. But with the autopsy now in play, it feels more like a frantic attempt to wipe down a crime scene. Like a magician scrambling to cover the trapdoor after the audience has already seen it. And then came the teacher's testimony.
She ran away from home. She was gone for like a month. The cops found her in Hollywood, brought her back to our school, and then I found out yesterday that she's now dead in that rapper's car, cut into pieces.
That statement landed like a hammer blow. Not just because it confirmed how Celeste first crossed paths with David, but because it revealed a cycle of intervention and failure. She'd been pulled back once, warned once, given another chance, and still, she slipped away. This time forever. If the autopsy was the cold science of truth, the teacher's words were its human echo. A reminder that behind every chart and toxicology result was a girl who once sat in classrooms, passed notes to friends, and dreamed about a future she would never see. The FBI's findings didn't just point to David. They cast a long shadow over everyone who allowed the cycle to continue. Friends who claimed to believe Celeste was a 19-year-old USC student despite glaring red flags, venues that waved her through with fake IDs, fans who joked about the age gap but never demanded accountability. It was like watching a train derail in slow motion, every bystander with a hand on the brake choosing instead to film for clout. That's the darkest truth the autopsy exposed. Celeste's death wasn't only a crime of action. It was a crime of inaction, complicity multiplied across dozens of people until her fate was sealed. And while fans mourned, critics raged, and conspiracy theories spun, David kept moving. He performed. He gave interviews. He smiled for cameras. A man walking a tightrope over a pit, praying the rope wouldn't snap, but closure never came. Each revelation only deepened the mess, blurring timelines and making the line between victim and villain harder to trace. The industry clung to its favorite story, the meteoric rise of a bedroom pop star, but when the FBI pried open Celeste Ribba Hernandez's autopsy, that illusion shattered. This wasn't a cautionary tale. It was a roadmap of abuse, a grotesque record of how silence and negligence can kill just as surely as violence. Negligence and cover-ups were etched across a young girl's body, carved into the very evidence investigators documented one injury at a time. And here's what stunned everyone: Celeste's death wasn't simple. It wasn't clean. The autopsy revealed she didn't just vanish and reappear lifeless, she had been dragged through a cycle of harm that bore the fingerprints of control. Unevenly healed fractures, sedatives with no prescription, scars older than her disappearance. For the FBI, these weren't just details, they were neon signs spelling out one horrific truth: Celeste's final chapter had been written long before her body was found. When the news broke, fans didn't know where to turn. Many clung to denial. This was David, the soft-spoken bedroom pop star who freestyled into his phone, who spoke about faith, family Bible studies, invisible strings of destiny. How could the boy who gave the world romantic homicide be connected to such a brutal ending? But denial shattered the moment old footage resurfaced. His panicked demand to wipe a Twitch stream, once dismissed as awkward, now looked like a guilty conscience caught live. That clip became a rallying cry online, memed, dissected, slowed, and replayed as fans hunted for meaning in every blink, every nervous laugh. But the most jarring revelation from the autopsy wasn't the injuries, it was her age. Celeste wasn't a college student. She wasn't the 19-year-old USC kid David's circle swore she was. She was barely a teenager, surviving on fake IDs that opened doors to clubs, hotel parties, and a relationship that never should have been possible. That truth ignited a moral firestorm. Suddenly every lyric, every cryptic post, every edgy performance was recast as something sinister. Fans noticed romantic homicide dropped on her birthday. Conspiracy threads tied leaked tracks directly to their relationship. Real or imagined didn't matter, perception alone was damning, and through it all, David carried on. The day after Celeste's body he gave interviews cloaked in metaphor, roses decaying into dust, alter egos named Itami who embodied chaos and destruction. At the time, it sounded like art. But now, with the autopsy in hand, it reads like prophecy fulfilled. His lyrics no longer lived in the abstract, the autopsy became their interpreter. Where he spoke of invisible strings binding souls together, investigators saw controlling ties tethering a young girl to him. Where he described cycles of life and death, the FBI saw a cycle of abuse ending with Celeste's slow erasure. What once felt poetic now looked like a confession hiding in plain sight. The autopsy also exposed the complicity around him. How did his friends accept the story that Celeste was 19 without questioning glaring inconsistencies? How did venues wave her through with fake IDs? Why did fans in his own livestream chats joke about her age, yet no one with authority intervened? This wasn't ignorance. It was willful blindness. People saw only what was convenient. They embraced the lie that kept the music flowing, the tours selling, the image untarnished. Because acknowledging the truth would have meant stopping the machine, and stopping the machine would have cost money, fame, clout. That's the ugliest layer of all. The industry didn't just miss red flags, it bulldozed through them, and yet, despite everything, the FBI held back. Even with an autopsy suggesting prolonged trauma, even with a timeline linking disappearances to live streams, they didn't put David in cuffs. Authorities insisted they needed more. Cause and manner of death weren't crystal clear. Toxicology raised suspicions, not certainties. The legal threshold was higher than fan outrage or journalistic conclusions. That hesitation kept David free, but it also kept the story alive. And fans, furious and grieving, began demanding accountability louder than ever. Critics dug deeper. Conspiracy theorists filled gaps with speculation. And through it all, the FBI stayed silent, quietly tracking digital traces, mapping timelines, and watching every move David made, because in today's world, secrets don't stay locked in diaries or whispered in private. They bleed out through Discord servers. They echo in the background of Twitch streams. They linger in TikToks that seem harmless in the moment but, in hindsight, become damning artifacts of truth. When FBI cyber units began reconstructing Celeste's digital footprint, they didn't just find messages, they uncovered a parallel timeline of her life, one running in step with David's rise to fame. Agents combed through Discord logs, old Instagram DMs, and TikTok comments. Patterns emerged. Mentions of Celeste by name. Age jokes ignored in real time. References to Hollywood meetups that lined up with the teacher's testimony. In one chat, fans even speculated she was the muse behind certain songs. It wasn't buried. It was all out in the open, but the most damning digital evidence was how Celeste slipped into adult spaces. According to law enforcement sources cited by TMZ, she carried multiple fake IDs that gave her access to clubs, parties, and private events. David's circle didn't just get fooled, they convinced themselves she was 19, a USC college kid, despite glaring contradictions. Think about that. A 14-year-old child was moving through rooms full of adults, sliding past bouncers and security with nothing more than plastic in her wallet. And the people around her, the ones who should have known better, not only accepted it, they embraced it. They wove her into their social fabric, normalized her presence, and in doing so, erased her vulnerability completely.
And then I found out yesterday that she's now dead in that rapper's car, cut into pieces.